Everyone, welcome to a Tuesday edition of the MSP Initiative Live post IT Nation. We'll be joined here shortly by our friend Mr. Ken Patterson. Just a few minutes, said he's dialing in. But yeah, we are back from IT Nation, and wow, what a week in in Orlando. Actually, our team was on site Sunday through Saturday. And then everybody went home, and I actually flew to Denver for a quick little Eagles at Broncos outing, and then back here to Pennsylvania. But yeah, it was a long week, and if anyone hasn't been to IT Nation before, I call it the IT Nation flu, right? When you don't sleep a lot, are walking copiously, and drinking a little bit of alcohol. You put all that together and call that the IT Nation flu. It is a real thing, I promise you. But hey, made it through. I'm feeling pretty good. And by the way, when you're at these conferences, if you haven't been to one before or it's been a while, good shoes are important. Really, really, really important. Very, very good shoes. So yeah, I can assure you that a lot of people got blisters. I love the people that go out and buy brand new shoes in time for the conference and then don't break them in. And yeah, that's all fun, but not really. So yeah, it's been it was a long week in Orlando, and there he is, Mr. Kenny P. How you doing, buddy?
I am hanging in there, man. Just having a little technical difficulties getting that all worked out here so I can get on here with you. But
new computer always happens.
Yeah, well, I have I got the new Surface dock, and everything worked great. Got it all connected, and when I got home, plugged it in, the Surface dock doesn't recognize the Microsoft keyboard and mouse that's plugged into it. So now my keyboard and mouse is over here where the Surface is, not over here where my desktop is. So ran some updates, did not fix the problem, but I don't need all that to jump on here with you. So I'm here. I made it.
All good. Thanks for joining. I was just saying how it was a very, very, very long week in Orlando, and you actually stayed a couple extra days to get some R&R in, I think.
I did. I stayed in Disney until yesterday. It was great. Great time. Had a blast.
I think it was as advertised, right? Yeah, that big bash before the year kind of came to a close, right?
As advertised, I think it was. That party was crazy good. I mean, it was. We got so much. The feedback was crazy. I mean, I had. Big people, little people. It didn't matter. Everybody coming up and saying this party was the best thing all year. So happy. It's like we're completely back, and to have a party that was even better than the parties when there was no COVID, to end it all and get everybody going was meant a lot to people. So everybody was just jamming out. And it was cool because there was so many different things that people could do, right? You had the little sports area, you had the ice luge, you had the dance floor, the band. I mean, it was a crazy good time. Everybody enjoyed it. It was beyond as advertised, as I would like to say. Initially I was thinking to myself, well, let's see what happens. People are maybe not going to want to come out or maybe be afraid to be in a crowd that large, but it was really, really good.
Yeah. I mean, the conference was actually pretty well attended. They said with everybody, right? Vendors, staff, MSPs, people just checking out the event, something like
right.
2,600, 2,800, something like that.
It was 2,800 when I was in the keynote, and I gotta admit, it was 2,800. I put a video on Facebook that showed the room, and there were bodies lined up on the walls behind because the seats were all taken up, and it was a full packed. This was like a pre-COVID event. It really was. It was crazy how many people were packed in that room. I just was in the back, did the video, and I was shocked to see that it was back to that point.
Yeah, it was. I was
shocked to see.
Oh, sorry, a little bit of feedback. Yeah, no, that was awesome. I mean, I really appreciate the the willingness of the MSP community to come out, and hopefully everybody got a little bit of vacation time in. I was telling everyone, if you've ever bought brand new shoes before a conference, bad move. And I can imagine some people had some blisters, and yeah, but and I also mentioned the IT Nation flu, which is no sleep, lots of walking, and a little bit of alcohol. That definitely gets you to an urgent care near you. So luckily this year, like I flew in a little bit early with the team, so I was here from Sunday on, and the conference didn't really get started till Wednesday, but Wednesday night was our big party. But yeah, a couple days kind of ahead of time, just getting a little bit of sleep in. Huge difference. Huge difference for sure.
Yeah, well, I was due, considering I haven't had anything in over well, about 2 years. So, and I definitely have been a part of the late nights and the no sleep and the whole thing sliding into.
I also like the the airport notices saying, hey, the airport's really backed up. Make sure you're there 3 hours in advance for domestic.
Yeah, right.
I thought that was very interesting.
Right. Who wants to be at an airport for 3 hours? Nobody.
I guess unless you have lounge access, like a couple people I know.
Yeah.
Nobody.
Yeah, Darren.
Yeah, or Alec. They're both lounge guys.
True.
So yeah, not interested. But yeah, I thought it was really interesting that ConnectWise at the conference announced basically they kind of came out with a new brand, right? Kind of redesigned their logo and came out with a new RMM platform called, was it ASIO or something like that?
Yeah, that's right.
So, it'll be interesting to see how that all takes off. I know RMMs have been kind of at the top of a lot of conversation this year for not so great reasons. And yet another RMM platform, right? I mean, they're kind of hybrid between, I guess, what Continuum came with and, what LabTech/Automate was. But I'm curious to see, like, there's a lot of conversations, and we've all had those conversations early in the year about whether the RMM, has any staying power now, right? A lot of people are saying, can you run an MSP without an RMM? Of course, a lot of conversation around Lighthouse and some of the other Microsoft initiatives with Intune,
right,
stuff like that are really starting to, all of a sudden they woke up and found MSP land, all out of nowhere, I guess. So I still think there's a place for the RMM. I don't think you can do everything the RMMs can do at this time, without multiple other pieces. But everybody having distributed SaaS accounts across all their products obviously changes things. And I also think that, the virtual computer in the cloud also changes things, right? Like Windows Virtual PC or Azure, they changed the name from Azure Desktop, right? When they announced all the SKUs as part of 365. So, and other similar solutions. So what's your feeling on the RMM? Has it got a 10-year run left? Like is it always going to be around, or is Microsoft just going to plug it all up? What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, it's a good question. Let's pull out a crystal ball here. I mean, 10-year, maybe not so much. But again, every time someone says, something's going away, it never fully goes away, right? There's always a need for, look at break fix. It's it's going to be gone in the next 5 years. It's still here, right? We still have break fix. We're going to probably always need break fix. There's always going to be people who need that or have a need for the hardware piece and need the break fix piece. RMM's a little more special, right? RMM does a lot more. And the biggest complaint for the longest time was we have these RMM tools that do all these things that we don't even need. And we just need them to focus on the things we do need, right? So why is it that they can't get the tool to the right place where it just does the things that we need it to do for the time period that we need it to do, and then the cost doesn't have to be as high? Maybe this ASIO thing is the next gen. I mean, I haven't seen it, haven't touched it, so I couldn't comment on where ASIO is going. But the bigger problem is that the RMMs are based on old legacy, right? And the funny thing, like I said, the tools were there was a lot of stuff built into these RMMs But for the most part, most MSPs were like, why do I don't need that? Like, can I just focus on the things that I do need? Can it just do these things? Because they were so big and clunky, we always needed to hire someone who was a specialist in those RMM tools.
And listen, there is a whole sub environment for
Right.
consultants and script builders. And I mean, because the reality is, you know, if you took a guy who is not a quasi DevOps, you know, kind of coder guy, it was not so easy to actually roll out scripts that worked or consistently worked. And like even Microsoft patching has become very difficult since Microsoft kind of changed the game with Windows 10 and, you know, the second, you know, kind of version of Windows 10 that they released on top of it, where Microsoft's really kind of controlling the game there a little bit. You know, it's very interesting to see that still the largest part of RMM, I think, is the remote access tool. And Brent brings up an interesting angle. He's like, hey, you know, like the remote access tool could be built in with something like vPro, right? Intel's vPro chip, where you're actually doing the remote access at the hardware level, and you're not using a team viewer or a log me in or a control, right? Which used to be called Screen Connect. Like all of a sudden, like there's a lot of ways to recreate that road.
Yeah, and because of the differences between those control products, right? I mean, I think at the time, I remember Screen Connect was one of the better ones. Just
I still think it is.
Yeah, I just believe that, and again, not using it now like I used to. Screen Connect was the one that came on that was light. It worked quick. You could get in, do the things you needed to do, and some of the other ones just require way too much, and they always seem to have issues with them. But yeah, you're right. It's always about that, right? Before, you got the RMM tool and then you had to find a remote control piece. Right now, they've all got something and merge all in there with it. But at the end of the day, 10-year run, probably not because of the cloud and because of the shift. Sure, we're still going to need to be able to remote control. And we're still going to need to do some sort of patch management on some devices. Lighthouse and Intune will definitely help. Yeah, Brent's DOS and PC Anywhere. Now you're really bringing me back, Brent.
PC Anywhere. I think I saw somebody rolled out and they still had the box, with the discs and everything. I was like, that's a collector's item.
I had
Brent, if you still have that, you should try and get on Pawn Stars.
Yeah, there you go.
Down in the box, yeah.
There you go. Yeah, we had a client back in the day who had back then, but it was older Novell servers, and had DOS PC Anywhere was the way to try to get in, and it almost never worked.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, it's interesting. Somebody discovered in Windows 11. I'd love to get an understanding of what the adoption is of Windows 11. We brought on another 2 employees on our side, and we are a Surface shop, right? Just like everybody's, Mac. Now we're Microsoft Surface shop. So we've been largely going with the Surface Books, but it looks like the Surface Books are taking now a backseat to the new Surface Studio laptop, where like it's built in and it flips the screen over. But anyway, long story short, it comes pre-installed to Windows 11, and I was like, oh, that's interesting. And inside of Windows 11, and I believe it's in earlier versions, there's like a support help tool built into Windows, which I was like, oh, that's.
Hey, and now Brent really rolls it out there. He brings up modem sharing with Lantastic.
Lantastic. Wow.
Yes, I did a lot with Lantastic, and then Windows 95 booted Lantastic because it could connect.
Yeah. Keith actually chimes in. He's like, I love my studio laptop. Well, that's good. You're one of those 2 new people we were talking about. So yeah, it's very interesting to see how, things are progressing in technology land.
Right.
Some things change and some things stay the same. That's it. That's really how it's true. I on another note, I just logged into MailChimp earlier today for another project, and they're now giving you a 3-month discount on their subscription if you turn on MFA. There's a way to entice people to turn it on. Pay them.
Right. Pay them to help secure themselves.
I mean, it's not a bad idea. Could you imagine going to all your end customers saying, hey, I'll give you a gift card if you actually turn on your MFA because you don't want to. Who knows? Could work. But yeah, I mean, now that Microsoft, I know we mentioned it a couple episodes ago, are giving out 25 free Azure P2 licenses per organization because of that whole, I forget what it's called, Nuva Bomb, or one of those new security things that they had talked about. I know Matt Lee and somebody else at PAX 8 did a whole webinar on it. We mentioned it last time, but yeah, I mean, Dom, yeah, exactly. But I mean, like now it's almost like people are now progressing past just turning on MFA. They're talking about conditional access and location-based sign-on and blocking at logins from outside of your geofence. You know, like it's starting to mature, but I feel like that's just a really, really, really small subsection of people are actually utilizing that, right?
Right.
I don't know. We'll see where it goes. But back to IT Nation for a second. But hey, they're giving a highly functional bvoip beer mug. No, Brent, those are only exclusive to people working with bvoip. They're not giving away a Microsoft beer mug. But hey, maybe we give them out. Maybe they give them out as we're going to be enforcing MFA too. Yeah, there's that mug. I love that mug. It's fantastic. I know Brent has one for sure. But back to IT Nation, right? Lots of conversations, right? And like when we started MSP Initiative, we started Channel Strong, we're really just trying to recreate those conversations that actually do happen at the conferences, but not in the breakout rooms, not in the vendor pavilion, but like the hallways and the bar, party, and the hotel rooms, suites, whatever. Brent says he definitely regularly uses his bvoip mug. That's good. That's what we wanted. If you told me you didn't regularly use it, Brent, I think we'd be upset. Just gonna be honest. But I'm glad you're using it. If you need more, let me know. We got it. But anyway, so a lot of conversation, Ken, and listen, you talked to a bunch of people that I didn't have a chance to, but a lot of conversation about the direction of the sandbox, I call it, MSP land, right? Hey, acquisitions and mergers, not just at the vendor level, but at the MSP level. I feel like we talk about this all the time, but
right.
A lot of big, kind of rumors going around. That I think I saw, there was a CRN article that came out today saying, Jason McGee said on stage, they're not true. I don't know which one he was referencing, but
he started everything off with that. That was the line. By the way, for you people in the front row, all the rumors, they're not true. It's like not one of them is real.
Yeah. So lots of conversation happening about where things are going. And then there's also conversation about, obviously, valuation of the MSP, right? Where the math leads everyone. And there was obviously a lot of conversation about security, as you would expect. And there was a lot of conversation about, what's working and what's not, right? I mean, obviously, as time goes on, we start to see people getting used to different models, charging things in a different way, restructuring the packaging of how they deliver their solution. I'm hearing a lot of MSPs are really, merging to create their own SOCs, and they're instead of outsourcing some stuff, they're actually building these teams internally. But I'm not finding a lot of people having the resources to do it by themselves. They're requiring some sort of transaction to occur in order to actually to get there. I don't know if you were hearing the same things I was hearing, Ken, but like I'm hearing a lot of that type of stuff where they realize they need it, but they don't have the resources, and that's where a lot of the transactional type stuff's happening.
Yeah, I mean, of course they don't have the resources. I mean, that's the thing. We've been talking about this ad nauseum when it comes to, again, the terminology. Well, I'm an MSSP. No, you're not. No, you're not. Really not. You're either an MSP or you're a security focused MSP. The MSSPs are the big boys. They're the ones that have the tools and spend the type of money that it costs to actually be an MSSP. Whatever these titles we're going to go back and forth with, like George now just calls it the sandbox. That's the part that everybody has to think about and understand. You're not MSSPs. You're security focused. If you want to have the SOC, find a company that is a good SOC fit for you and utilize their services. That's what they do day in, day out. And you want to make sure that you understand. We talked about this, George. I don't even know if it was last week or whatever, but the fact that the SOC you have today may not be the SOC you have tomorrow. just make sure you get one though. Get into it. These are not the ones.
This is very interesting. So I'm
Yeah.
going to rewind that because it's a very, all right, you spent all this time. And this was actually something that happened at IT Nation. They're like security vendors arguing with other security vendors that they don't need the others if they have them. And I was like, oh, we're already there. I didn't think we were that deep into the conversation. Okay. Listen, back to my friend Brad Gross, which I had by the way, Brad was on site at IT Nation, thankfully. We were able to actually catch up in person, and always funny, always good stories. And stay tuned. We might be building something around these stories in 2022. But all these people about, hey, like to your point, hey, the vendors you're using now, right? You may be ripping out one endpoint for another. You may be ripping out one, seam for another. You may be ripping out one sock for another. Like, you need to be flexible enough to make these changes. And are you set up properly in your agreements to do it without putting yourself in a bind, right? So, I think everything starts with the MSA. It needs to be spelled out properly so that you can interchange stuff as you decide what you need to do to enhance and grow your offering and, reduce your risk, which is I think, most important part. I've been saying it for a while now. But to your point, Ken, right? Like, I think somebody said you can almost do a SOC with Microsoft's Sentinel platform. And I was like, yeah, I mean, maybe the software is there, but are there the personnel there to actually remediate?
Right. You're confusing two different things. There's the tools, and then there's the personnel. You still need bodies to watch and react and all of that. That's great. The tool is going to push out all this information. Who's watching it? Who's going to say when it pops up? Who's going to actually say what the next steps are? You still need the personnel. You're right, 100% spot on.
And I get weary, and I know Darren, who usually is on the show, isn't here today, but when you hit these vendors who are like, hey, we're one size fits all, right? X dollar per user or per endpoint, and it's all included, like, you almost start to get a little concerned that, like, hey, I pick my this, I pick my that, I build what I feel is the best available for the price. And when you kind of roll it up all into one vendor solution, you start to worry that you're not having all of the right pieces in place just to go for the more simpler option. I think that that's something that's also a concern down the line, right? Because, what good is all the security if it doesn't actually help reduce the footprint? And that's the other thing with the customer, right? You finally convince your customer they need all the security stuff. They sign, they pay, and then something happens and they're like, well, what about all the security I paid for? Why did I still get it? It's not 100%. Nothing is.
Right.
Brent, you're absolutely 100% right. He says biggest cost is backup and personnel. I mean, backup surely hasn't gone away. I love how people are like, oh, backup's not sexy anymore. I'm like, you still need it. You still need it. Like, don't just say, oh, I don't need backup because I have a SOC. I mean, that doesn't make any sense. You still need a safety net for if something does get through, you can restore, right? Not to knock them, but we saw all the breaches earlier in the year, right? I mean, where thousands of businesses got hit, they still need to recover, they still need to restore. Luckily, those encryption keys were put out there in the one incident, and that was weeks later. But imagine if they didn't have backups in those situations.
Right.
That's bad news. That's really bad news.
Backup's not sexy anymore. Okay.
Somebody said that on site at IT Nation. I was like, did you stop offering backup? Because that's a bad idea. You should definitely have something there. Well, we don't even talk about it anymore. I'm like, again, are you billing and installing it? Because I can assure you your customer is going to ask if something happens where the backup went.
Let's just take this a step further, George. The word sexy should never be used in IT. Okay, forget it. Sexy. Come on. It's technology. None of it's sexy, right? I mean, we talk about cloud, right? Cloud, it wasn't that it was sexy. It was that it was a word that we all could live with because we've been using all these other technology words up until now. And then all of a sudden cloud's new because it's something everybody can relate to. But sexy, I'm going to throw that word right out of the IT world.
Okay, but what about pizza?
What about pizza?
When we were in Denver at the Eagles Broncos outing,
yeah,
the place's website was sexy.pizza.
There you go.
I'm just gonna tell you,
yeah, so, Brett, Ken, you haven't been to the same conferences that I've been to.
Oh,
I'm
okay.
assuming that's sarcastic from a sexy standpoint.
I hope so. I hope so. Uh, Brent says many times the problem is not in the tech, but the company delivering is too difficult to deal with. Look at the creation of PAX. Well, yeah, I mean, it's funny. A lot of people still don't know who PAX8 is, and you would think that's hard to know because they're the go-to for a lot of people on the Microsoft side, but who don't qualify to go direct. But I mean, I guess the best way to explain it was, hey, PAX8's the Amazon to the SaaS buying for IT, for the IT world, which is true. They made something very complicated easy. But to your point, Brent, which by the way, that's how I explain it now. It's a perfect example, perfect explanation. A lot of these technologies are hard to put together, right? Imagine having 20 plus security vendors all doing one little slice and then having to manage 20 more vendors. I mean, sounds like a lot. Sounds like a lot of time. Forget about keeping the billing straight. I'm just talking about what do you happens when one of these, these apps actually pick something up or tell you that there's something wrong. It's a lot of noise to filter through. So the fact that we're even considering 10, 15, 20 different products in one conversation, security, we're not even talking about the day-to-day operational stuff and like cash registers working and like
We're
people.
not even talking about the other categories. We're almost always talking about security and the levels, the layers of security and all these other things, but there's also productivity, infrastructure, continuity, right? Communications. There's all these other pieces of the stack that we mostly don't talk about because we're always worried about the security stack, which 20 different security vendors. Think about that. And there's more, but having to have all these pieces fit just in one piece of a stack.
Yeah. I mean, that boggles my mind, man. It really does. And I gotta think that it gets harder over time, man. I really do. And so that's where, back to the conversation, is the SOC the new RMM? I don't know. Like, you almost need a product to manage all of your security products in one place. If I was an RMM solution other than SaaS, I would be concentrating down that road because there are literally just so many pieces to manage now. And who's logging into every portal separately? I don't know. I was just talking today to somebody on my team. They're like, oh, let's just put a banner in the portal. That's all we need. I was like, do you know how many people actually log into the portal? Like, once they set it and it's running, how many people actually go back to the vendor's portal?
Right.
Usually when they need something, not when, so if you're just putting announcements or notifications in the portal, probably not going to get them. So I wonder who's managing all the communication from all the vendors in these MSPs. Do you think that they're just creating an email alias and it goes to a service ticketing board? I don't think so.
Interesting.
Think about that. If all these vendors have to communicate something to all of their partners, simultaneously, where's all of that being funneled to? Is it a Teams channel, Slack channel, and then shared mailbox? Where's all that going? Thank God they're not sending out text messages every time. So, I don't know. Starting to get a little bit of overcreep. That's what I think. But anyway, what else did you run into? What were the common themes of your convos over at IT Nation there?
Well, other than, wow, this party is crazy good.
It was a
that was the general theme about the party. And man, why couldn't you guys have done this the last night instead of the first night?
Well, I mean, the conference had their own party on the last.
Right, exactly. No, we know why. It's just, why that was the question, was because the first night in, having a banger like that, and then going into the second, or really the first day of the event, people were like, holy moly.
So just in case you're not following the MSP Initiative group, there's a page and then there's a group. So if you're following the group, you will find the MSP Community Block Party album, where all those, we have all the Huntress, sponsored the photo booths. You got all the photo booth photos, and then when you get further on down in the album, there's just regular photos, I think, that are eventually coming. So these are just all the photo booth ones, but then there are more. and then there's some videos, a bunch of stuff, right? So
Yeah.
hit the MSP Initiative group, join. You'll see the block party album there. Great time, man. Really, really, honestly, great time. A lot of artificial grass everywhere, but it was a great time.
Yeah. I was tripping over that stuff.
That's funny. Actually, I'd argue that it helps people from tripping.
Yeah, true. Sade said that there's a lot of photos. They're there. You just got to scroll, and there's a lot of them. Yeah, and I haven't even given you my photos yet, so we still have even more to.
Oh yeah, yeah. Look, I keep on scrolling. I'm seeing some good, some good times here. There you go. Drinks on Data over here. Had the band. This is like just getting going. No, this is great. It was a good time, man. It really was. It's probably our biggest party yet.
Yeah, absolutely was. It was. Give all credit to you and your team and Pete and Equilibrium's team. You guys really did a great job, and knowing the stuff behind the scenes that you guys had to deal with. No one on the other side had any clue all the work that you guys had to put in, separate from just the work that goes into putting a party on, but actually dealing with issues that came up all through this whole thing before you got to this point. So to pull something like this off and be able to not have one single thing be evident to the people at the party, that's pretty big. That's a pretty big thing, a big task to do. So yeah,
over the years, I've learned, I have a whole new appreciation for the people that actually make conferences happen. We all nitpick, right? But
right.
Events in general, right? It's hard. It is. There's a lot of unexpected stuff, and it comes out from left field, and you're in the moment, and you got to make decisions that have dollar signs associated with them in a lot of cases. So yeah, and weather, that's another one. Like Florida,
Oof,
could be raining.
I can't believe how lucky the weather shifted so many times. You thought it was going to rain, it's not going to rain, and it was a perfect night. So yeah, you paid off Mother Nature too. Nice work, guys. So it was from that standpoint, it was great. The type of stuff that was being discussed there, it was all over the place. It's just your typical. You're having fun and you're walking around, but people are still asking questions and popping up and saying, hey, what's going on with this? I know one of the things that came up was, it seems like, and I can't go into details, but it seems like there's going to be a lot of moves personnel wise. There was a lot of conversations about, hey, I'm not going to be here for much longer, or, hey, do you know anybody looking for, XYZ? So a lot of people are looking to hire. There's a lot of people looking to make moves. That probably was the biggest out of all of it. I got more people approaching me about those types of things, just talking about, hey, do you know anybody looking? Or the fact that we're growing, we're blowing up, we're kind of getting, we're adding, or people were saying that they're looking to move. So it was kind of it was a mixed bag, but it was a lot of moving around type of thing. And I know you got that too. We were talking about the fact that we heard that some people were moving on, switching vendors, whatever it may be. It was between the MSPs, the vendors, and even some of the MSPs were like, hey, I might be looking to do new things. Just keep this in the back of your mind type of thing. So that was probably the highest level of conversation that I got out of all of it. And then there was your typical, hey, Ken, security stack type stuff. What are you guys looking at? What new vendors do you guys have coming down the pike? Are you looking at X? Are you looking at Y? Type of stuff. Again, it's always around security. Not very many people come up to me anymore and say, hey, what's your latest productivity item coming up onto the stack? It just doesn't come up. Even continuity. And that may be because we have continuity pretty well locked down now too, because
I don't know. I bring back that word. You said it shouldn't be used. I don't know.
I'm not going to say the other word. No.
Okay. All right.
No, I
just know that it's an extension for domains.
And Brent says, Ken, was that from everyone? I'm just saying that was the highest. That was the biggest amount. It wasn't from everyone, Brent. It was just that the most conversations that I got at the end of it, when I was kind of crunching the numbers of what I heard the most of, that was the biggest thing I heard from both sides, MSP and vendors, talking about making moves and things like that. And then, of course, security question that always comes up. Who's next? Who's new? Who's coming on? What are you going to be doing now? And I think that's going across the board. I'm trying to dig a little deeper and see, not to toot our own horn, but it came up quite a lot that the connection between the party that we just did from an MSP Initiative standpoint to Channel Strong came up quite a bit with, man, wow, what a year to think that we came through COVID and you guys were bringing us out and getting us out live, having those conversations, to capping it off with this great big party with all of us in person and being able to do this. I think that was talked about quite a bit from a standpoint of, you know, if we had to go straight through COVID to now, not even sure some of us would have felt comfortable going out, but we got to go out, test the waters, have some conversations, see that we could do it responsibly, safely, led some of these people to be able to come to this big event too. So, you know, kudos to George and the MSP Initiative team for all, you know, for all of the whole
and beer mugs. He still loves that beer.
and the beer mugs. Brett loves the
listen,
beer mugs.
I mean, we said it before the event. I'm going to say it again now.
Yeah.
Getting people together is hard, right? Everybody has schedules. There's flights, planes, trains, boats. And that's why you got to take advantage of the time when you have it, right?
Right.
Putting everybody together and just talking about everything, right? I mean, nothing's off the table, I think. But those conversations are harder to have when you're not in front of people. You get distracted. Even like we all said, virtual events, right? I mean, just got the death knell, right? Because like you just so many alerts and so many things that can take you away from the screen. And you just can't have nobody's. I don't know if anyone's done the VR thing, right, to try and recreate the conversation, but like you just can't get the same vibe and the same effect without being in person.
No.
So I'm hoping that 2020 and anything close to it are well behind us, and that we're not going to see a repeat of any sort of lockdown, and we're getting closer towards 2019. And if 2022 is anything like 2019, it's going to be a great year, and it's going to be a fantastic year. But if for some reason it bubbles back up and we start to have, restrictions, I mean, I was very happy to see the day before IT Nation, the 8th, the United States started allowing international travelers to come who are non-citizens to enter the country. So we saw a bunch of UK people at IT Nation that we didn't expect to see.
True. Right when that got lifted, I noticed there was actually a big uptick right there at the event.
Yeah, so I was thrilled, right? Because there's a lot of great people over there, and I know me and my team get over the UK quite a bit when it's open, and we miss those guys. I feel really bad for the guys down in Australia and New Zealand who are literally just living behind a wall. They it's really still heavily restricted, and they're feeling a little bit of blues. So I'm hoping 2022 is a lot more like 2019. You never know, right? But you just can't recreate being in person, and you almost don't have enough time. That's why we come in early and leave late, right? Because you just almost don't have enough time in the 2 or 3 days that an event's happening to actually get to everyone you would want to talk to.
Right. Yep. Well, and Brent brings up, yes, Brent, all the Channel Strong's events were outdoors because they had to be. Those were based on the restrictions that were going on at the time. We wanted to make sure that they were safe, which obviously meant we dealt with weather. We got very lucky. We've had very few events that we got rained on, but we had good coverage. Or at one event, we were standing underneath the edge of the building with the truck and everything. We really got seriously lucky with most of the weather occurrences that happened. And we had wind. Take a tent and just roll it down the street and bend it all up.
It's actually funny. At the non-COVID was outdoors here too. Yeah, agree. At the Eagles Broncos game this weekend, the tents went flying, so they went tentless.
Oh yeah, you lost the tents there.
Yeah, they lost 2 tents, and I was like, forget the tents, save the alcohol.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. So
George is holding on to the keg while everybody's trying to chase the tents.
Yeah. Exactly right. I don't know if it was the keg more than it was the bottles, but it's all good. We made it through. Which, by the way, thanks for your team helping get that off the ground. That was a great game. Not just because the Eagles won, but how about almost 70 degrees? Brent says save the mug. Those mugs were, interestingly resilient, Brent. They almost bounced and still stayed intact. Yeah. But how about almost a 70-degree day in Denver in November for a football game?
Yeah.
I wouldn't have guessed that.
Yeah, it looked like a great day. Really
Yeah.
did.
Good football weather for sure. And that's the first time I was in what used to be Sports Authority Stadium. Now it's
Right. Yeah,
M
that's right.
Power Stadium. That's my 21st NFL stadium, Ken.
Nice.
So
You're
I
almost there.
still got a little bit more to go. I would have, I didn't quite make it to that Vegas game, but had to get back before, I got in trouble. But we'll get there. You almost need to catch some of these stadiums before they knock them down and put new ones up, right? That's the problem.
Right.
Like you don't have
Right.
forever. No, it was a good time. Really appreciate that. Yeah. So weather is always a catch, right? Because even like to your point, right? It was raining up until 6 p.m. and our party started at 9. And that makes a huge difference on whether people show up or not.
100%.
And for anyone that lives in the desert, well, I can tell you how hard it was to get people to come out at 110 degrees. So you better have some cover because they'll melt, including shoes. I have had an incident where I was drying my shoes in Phoenix back in 2017 for a GlueCon and IT Glue's event. And I put my shoes outside to dry. It spilled something on them and just washed them down and put them out to dry. I came back and my shoes melted. I had to buy all new shoes. So now I always bring 2 sets of shoes now. And I'm not I don't check my bag, right? I tell my team, you got to learn how to do the carry-on. Like we have to have clinics on packing your bag so that you don't overpack. But I still had a team member that checked the bag and she was already overweight coming. I was like, I don't know how'd that happen, but all right.
Just coming back, we had almost had the weight problem, Janine's bag being, coming back with everything. I don't check a bag, but of course we had to she did for this trip. And then we just shoved everything in and I'm like, I'm not sure this is going to make it. I get it up on there, 1 pound under, just squeaked it in.
Wow. Yeah. And like the overage fee is like $100.
Yeah, they don't make it easy. And I always find it funny. I'm like, wait a minute. So if I pay you $100, this weight is okay. See, it's supposed to be about the weight. It's supposed to be distribution. But if I pay $100, the weight is okay. It doesn't affect the plane at all.
When was the last time your carry-on was weighed?
Right.
That's
you ever see some of those? You ever see some of those carry-ons? Yeah.
Yeah, putting bricks in those carry-ons. And then they get on the plane and they can't actually get it up. Somebody has to help them.
Oh, I did see that on this last flight. Yeah. Or and then my wife is like, why are you edging our way up to the front here to get on? We have Comfort Plus. I'm like, watch what happens when they start calling the things off. And all of a sudden this crowd of people started cutting, everybody's smashing into each other. I'm like, she's like, what is this all about? I said, you'll see in 1 second. I get inside, slide my bag up, sit down, and I go, now watch. Everybody coming in. Oh, my thing's full. My thing's full. It's like, well, what are you gonna do?
Go to the back. Yeah. And
Right.
Nobody wants to wait for their bag. Okay, I'm going to tell a quick story because this was ridiculous. And I'm sure you saw it, right, on social. So I'm bringing a bunch of stuff for the party, right? So I have to check a bag. I hate that, but I do. And so I park my car. There's no economy parking still at Philadelphia Airport. I don't know why. So you can only do garage parking. Haha. So I bring my bag. I get there just in time because, like, you have to. If you're there past an hour before the flight, they usually won't take your bag, right? So I get there just in time. I check my bag. I had to go 4 terminals down to get into pre-check. Like I show up to go check in, it's an hour and a half wait, no pre-check. Next terminal, hour and a half wait, no pre-check. Guys, like, go 2 terminals down, they'll have it. Go there, closed. Come 1 terminal back, and they're like, they had a pre-check line that they created that they were like, I was the second to last person in, they closed it. And then I had to work 4 terminals over, and I was like one of the last people to walk onto the plane. Like, what's the purpose of this pre-check or clear or any of these programs if they're not open?
I've never run into that. I've run into pre-check being a problem, but clear has always been the saving grace. Like Denver is one of the worst for that, where pre-check will be completely backed up or closed. And then if you don't have clear, you're screwed because you're stuck in that mess. So that's one of the reasons why I ended up getting clear, because clear takes me off that.
I was coming back from Denver. Clear was shut down too.
Really?
Yes, sir.
That's interesting. Never run into that.
And the layout of Denver's airport is so stupid.
Oh, it's brutal.
Because you run all security for all terminals in one place.
Yep.
It doesn't make sense. Who created this flow? Anyway, yeah.
Yeah.
So I just really, you jump through all the hoops to get all these programs, and then like they're like, oh yeah, it's like Disney turning off Fast Pass. Okay, all right, everybody's standing in the same line, defeats purpose.
Now you have the lightning lane and it
Well,
works.
that's the new Fast Pass, right?
Yep. Yep.
What's the difference? Can you enlighten the crowd? What's Lightning Lane do different
You
than
pay
Fast?
for it. It's paid for.
Uh-huh.
And it's a little bit, the system's a little weird, the way that they have it work. But I will say, they were the two big ones. They have the new Remy's Ratatouille ride, and then they have the Rise of the Resistance. Right, those are the two biggest ones, and we used it on both of them. And I gotta admit, we went right through, got right in, did both of them at the times. And the worst part is what you worry about is if the ride goes down, because the rides do go down. So in the morning when everybody was jumping into the park, the rope drop where you don't have to pay for the fast. If you rope drop, you can get in the lines early. So you get to the rope drop, you run all the way to your ride, and then the ride's closed. It's like, what? And it happened to us, but we were doing the Slinky Dog, in Toy Story Land, because we already had the lightning lane for the Rise, but everybody went to Rise and Rise went down. So now you had Rise down and Slinky Dog down, and everybody was panicking on what to do. And we were smart. We snuck over to another the Smuggler's Run, which is you ride the Millennium Falcon. We got right on there, no problem, because everybody was waiting in those lines thinking it's going to open sometime soon. We went right on another ride, got right on Smuggler's Run, which is one that takes a little bit longer. Came back, did one more thing, and luckily we popped out and the Slinky Dog thing opened, and there was this big line starting to form. We jumped in, got on that. But yeah, if you get in there and those things get delayed, I thought it might affect the lightning lane as well, because if there's a delay on that, it's going to push back on something, right? The ride is still going to cause this delay, but it didn't mess up. When we finally got to go back to Rise, we went right in. I'm like, is there a delay? They're like, no, just go right on the lane. We went right down the lane, bypassed everybody, and got on.
Speaking about rides, since you're all Mr. Disney over here, kudos to Connectwise again for one of the nights they rent out a section of, in this case, Universal. This was Islands of Adventure, so they had like Harry Potter Land and Jurassic Park. Big Jurassic Park guy here. I know there's other people on my team that were huge Harry Potter people. No, straight to the dinosaurs for me. And they had the one
dinosaurs.
And the one roller coaster that was brand new was the Raptor Velociraptor coaster. Wow.
Did you do it?
I did it. It was great. You were out of your seat a lot. Sade says best roller coaster. Yeah, you with as small as you are, I'm surprised you didn't fall out of the damn thing. But anyway, you're out of
Sade thinks that's better than the Harry Potter motorcycle ride.
Yeah, no, she said that. Oh, she said that was the best.
She said yes. Wow.
Yeah. So like that was by far the best. And I'm not a huge roller coaster guy, but I really enjoyed that. That was probably the best roller coaster I can remember ever being on. And but anyway, that was cool, right? I like that, you're basically not fighting anyone else to get through the park, and everything's kind of there, and they do the food and all that jazz. But yeah, no, that was cool. That I highly recommend it. If you're ever down and you want to, you're a roller coaster geek, then check that one out for sure. And yeah, really like that. That's a good touch. Brent says, I was just a vendor, Blue Star event at California Adventure. What an adventure. All right. What's California Adventure? Did I miss something?
That's the other side of Disney. So Disneyland, Disney World is all encompassing. Disneyland has their old school Disneyland, and then right across the way is the California Adventure, where they expanded. That's where Guardians of the Galaxy is and stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, I've been to Disney World many a time, probably not for recently because of COVID, but I've never been to Disneyland. I've passed by it, but I've never hit that. And I know it's closed for most of COVID, right? It's really only been open for about 8 months.
I actually took our friend Brett Mesh to Disneyland. We went there together because we had never been there. We're both Disney freaks. We do Disney World, and it's a lot smaller in some cases. There are some things that are a little bit bigger, like some of the Small World and Pirates are different than what they are in Disney World, and things are different, but it's a much smaller place. Never made it over to California Adventure, which does have Marvel. I think they have the Marvel Avengers School or something like that, and the training school, and then they also have Guardians of the Galaxy. They have the California Adventure roller coaster. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff going on over there.
He said like having your vendor event at Times Square on New Year's. That would be awesome, except for in real Times Square on New Year's, you can't find a bathroom.
Yeah.
So think about that for an ad. I'm sure that wasn't the case at your event, but that sounds cool.
Maybe that's why it smells like pee.
He says, same here. Same here. Well, you know, I was actually just making fun of a guy from New York. Not trying to knock New York, but LaGuardia is like under construction for like a decade.
Yeah.
Like a $2 billion like renovation. And they're really not that far through it. They're probably only like 3 or 4 years in. They're like, oh, LaGuardia is nice. I was like, are you sure? Which terminal did you fly out of? So yeah, not interested in crossing any bridge or tunnel to get to one of those airports. But no, man, it just if it's bringing all this together, right? If you haven't gotten the theme, it's just cool, right? You know, especially when you know they do the theme park rent out, right? Like a lot of people bring their family and do kind of a quasi vacation thing, like Ken did. But like, if you're like going for work, right? You may not have anyone that you're usually responsible for there. You know, you get to unwind a little bit, hang out, have a good time, and it's time to it's a good feel for sure, and it's a nice touch. I like that. I know the one year at this event they did the what was it, Sea World, right? And they did they did the band.
No, it's
walk the
you're
moon
definitely you're definitely right about that. Even if you're with your coworkers, you're seeing them in a different light. You're having a different, or even whatever, partners, coworkers, whatever it is, you're just getting to see this whole different side of people because you're hanging out doing something like that. And get on a roller coaster with somebody, you'll see a whole different side. You'll see a whole different side of them that way too.
Especially if they're flying off their seat.
Yeah. Okay.
Hey, you know, if you feel like you're about to come out of the thing, you'll have a problem. Oh, and that's what Brent says before the meal. It's exactly right, Brent. I ran into Ken and Mrs. Ken at the food place right next to the roller coaster. I said, yeah, don't eat if you're planning to go on that. Eat afterwards because you ain't going to keep anything down. So 100%. If you ever get to Universal and you ride that Velocicoaster thing, definitely. It's almost like pool rules, right? Don't get in the pool with the 30 minutes before. Before drink, 100%. Yeah. Don't do that either. You want to make sure you do that after you get off the roller coaster. 100%. 100%.
Good advice. Sage advice. See, this call is all about giving good advice.
How about this? 2 times where lockers came in, right? So number one, on this Velocicoaster, because it's over a water part of the park, they make everybody empty everything in their pockets. You can't keep your phone, wallet, because they can't get it back. They're not going into the water to go get it. So that's number one. So everybody has to put something in a locker. I thought that was the first time. Like usually the locker's there, but not mandatory. No, this was super mandatory. And then at the NFL game, right? Eagles Broncos in Denver. In Philadelphia, if you come in and you have something they won't let you in with, especially people who have purses and bags that are bigger than the allowed size, right? Where you have to have like the clear bag. They're like, go back to your car or throw it away. I was like, it's pretty much what I expect now, right? Especially the chicks that bring in the really expensive, purses and stuff. And I'm like, somebody should have told you, right? Because you'll never get back in time for the game. At this Broncos Eagles game in Denver, they actually had lockers so that when security said it was too big to go through or it didn't fit, you actually had a locker you could go put your stuff in. I was like, nice. That is the first time in any NFL stadium that such a thing exists. So maybe they're just a little bit more sophisticated in Denver.
Just being nice.
Yeah. Yeah.
In Philly, you're like, we don't care. Go back to your car, right?
No, in Philly, we're just like, Ugats. I'll take your bag. See you later. And that's if you make it to the line, right?
Right.
Yeah. The stadium or private vendor. The stadium, Brent. Believe it or not, the stadium. Yeah, I warn people all the time, right? It's a double standard. In Philadelphia, you got to make it through the parking lot to get to the stadium. And that's not exactly a great place if you're in the wrong colors. But I can wear my Eagles gear anywhere and feel perfectly okay. That's your double standard. Yeah. Holy smoke is incredible. That's right. So anyway, wow, we can unpack that week in Orlando for a long time. So much stuff happened. We're really only scratching the surface. It was a really intense week with a lot of I call it the back room conversations, off the record stuff, and just a lot of stuff that's coming out and a lot of where things are going. It just gut feelings on things. And when you start to hear a lot of people in the same place, you get to get a vibe of where certain things are going and not. So it is a small world. I know I call it the sandbox, the MSP land, I call it the sandbox, but it is a very, very, very small world when you put it all together, right? It's not 6 degrees of separation. It may be 1 or 2. For sure, for sure.
100%.
Yep. Got to figure out a way to play nice in the sandbox. All of that being said, there's not a lot. I mean, I'm sure there's technology things happening between now and then of the year. I'm sure some security, something or other is going to happen as the holidays kick in. And it's almost crazy to think that Thanksgiving is like really much here. I mean,
Yeah.
like we're talking about Black
Almost.
Friday and Thanksgiving, and it doesn't even feel like we're there, right? I don't know, just maybe how the year went. So there's really not a lot in the schedule until really it's late January, early February right now. I know next year's kind of fluid in terms of when the next time we're going to put people together. I know in February,
NerdioCon
and Threat Locker Zero Trust World are happening, I think, on the same dates.
Oh, really?
I think they're the same, or they're the same week.
That's interesting. What a time to pick 2 events in February at the same exact time.
But as I told my team, a storage locker that didn't exist now exists in Orlando for whatever it's worth. I'm done trying to ship U boxes apparently. I was telling there's like 6 or 7 conferences in Orlando next year. It's crazy. Like if you think about just
what? Well, first of all, they're not worried about them being canceled by any type of an event, right? That's why they're going to do Orlando. You're not going to pick Seattle, right? You're not going to pick places that bad things can happen. It's going to be Texas and it's going to be Florida, probably for the foreseeable future. If you want to pick a place that something's not going to happen.
Yeah. So Threat Locker Zero Trust World in February in Orlando. And I think MSP World, if you ever go to that one is also in March in Orlando.
I'm curious why it's called MSP World when most MSPs don't know about it.
I don't know. But
hey, well, we're going to go back to Arsenio Hall. Things that make you go,
There's a picture for social right there.
Yeah,
all right, everyone. So this session, every other session, online, under sessions, mspinitiative.com, as well as we'll have all of the link to all of our photos and videos on the block party tab, which we just started showing you on this webcast. I'll be putting them all there. And then we have the monthly prize giveaways going every month. So don't hesitate to put your name in the hat. Make sure you like our Facebook groups and our Facebook pages, LinkedIn, and all that jazz, so we keep you up to date on what's going on. And I know we missed Thursday because we were in the middle of just madness in Orlando, but Tuesdays and Thursdays here at on the twice a week, bi-weekly every other week, right? Twice a week, MSP Initiative Live. Thanks everybody for watching, and we'll catch you on Thursday. Take it easy.